It's not in the face! Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Hey Not the Face with your host John Nash and your producer me, Steffi Haynes. And today we are going to take a look at an interview that Nakisa Bidarian did with Ariel Helwani earlier this afternoon, and it caught John's eye, and so we put together some questions that maybe some of you might have about some of the things that he said. But first, let's check in with John and see how he's been doing.
Oh, terrible. The extreme air quality warning, severe air quality warning is out in LA because of the damn fireworks. So I'm going to try to, for the you listeners, for you subscribers, I'm going to try to hold it together.
All right.
Only for you. It's a big, huge sacrifice on my part.
Well, we shall make this as expedient and efficient as possible. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. First question I have for you is, did we learn anything about the deal that Jake Paul has cut with Netflix and about his fight with Mike Tyson?
Well, we didn't get specifics like the amount they're getting paid, although I imagine it's, millions upon millions. Someone said Mike Tyson's getting at least 25 million. I hope he gets more than that. But we do know that the deal was actually made with Netflix much earlier than I think was reported earlier. November 1st of last year is when they made the agreement. And Mike Tyson wasn't part of the original agreement. The original story was that they had a bunch of names on a list that he could fight, and Mike Tyson was one of them, one of the big fights possible. But apparently he wasn't on it because they didn't even, according to Bidarian, they weren't even thinking about him. Then Mike Tyson approached him right after they made that deal or were negotiating it and said, I would like to fight Jake Paul. And Bidarian's like, I forget your offer. I might have a better one. Went back to Netflix and negotiated it. And so they got the fight made. So that's the first thing that was kind of interesting is how, when the fight was booked, that Mike Tyson wasn't the original opponent. And also they hinted at that Jake Paul, another potential opponent for him, is Jake Paul versus his brother, Logan Paul.
Yikes.
Which, yeah, I don't know if I'm enthusiastic about that or not. That strikes me as pure gimmick. Like you are shooting for ratings, but that was the biggest, the biggest news out of it. And on top of that they plan on 75,000 at the. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Somehow I kind of think they will get, if they are able to hold the Mike Tyson fight. I would not be shocked if there's a huge crowd. I cannot believe how much interest there seems to be amongst the casual fan base, or even the extremely casual who might watch, Mayweather McGregor or Mayweather Pacquiao type fights, the biggest of the big. I am floored at the amount of interest between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, and how many of them think Jake Paul is going to lose to Mike Tyson. So.
Now, I got a question, because when I listened to this interview, warning bells went off in my head. Why in the world did they sign this deal way back in November 1st of last year, but it's taken them this long to announce a fight?
Well, it sounds somewhat fishy that it would take this long, but it does also make sense. One is, I don't know how out of shape at the time Mike Tyson was, how much time he asked for to get ready, right? Two, the second thing is, this is Netflix's big entry into combat sports, boxing, but live sports as well, right? And so I am sure they wanted a big rollout. They wanted a big event, set a certain date for it, but also make sure they had all the kinks out of the way. Because if they imagine they're going to get a massive audience, they want to make sure they can handle that massive audience. So it's, normally you'd say, well, it's kind of weird that they waited this long. There was this long a gap between the signing of the deal and the announcement. But I think it does make sense with Netflix, the idea that they're going to put on this massive event and they have to be ready for it. And that means that takes time to get ready for that event.
How bad do you think they took it when, it had to be postponed?
I'm not, I don't know if they took it bad, but I'm sure the Netflix people who are not used to live sports like that, especially live, boxing or MMA, where main events fall apart all the time. I'm sure they were somewhat caught off guard by that, because it's like I'm sure they're not used to that kind of thing. In their world, you book a date, it happens. But that's a lesson. That's a lesson they have to learn. And apparently they're not so upset about it. They nixed the fight because they're planning to do it in November now, it sounds like.
Now, did we learn anything about his position with PFL, though?
We did a little bit. I mean, we kind of knew before. They talked about that equity. Both him and Bidarian, that is, and Jake Paul have equity in PFL. Bidarian has a position as an observer on the board. We kind of knew this before.
Wait, may I ask a question?
Yes.
What's the difference between a board member and an observer on the board?
Well, and a board member has a vote, and has these duties. An observer is someone that just watches the duties and can give input, keeps an eye on them, basically. It's kind of a powerless position. I'm not sure, too, what an observer, a board member generally has a salary that comes with it. I'm not sure what the observer salary is. So it's a much less important, less powerful, much less power position on the board. It's more of a symbolic position, if anything. But, he's there. I think what's interesting is that part of the business plan. It's the idea is he going to fight MMA? And Bidarian was not sure about it because of his boxing career. Says it is a possibility, but also I think the idea that he has equity might explain some of the problems they've talked about. They've been trying to get Nate Diaz into a fight. Well, I can understand Nate Diaz might have a problem signing to fight for PFL, no matter if they're offering him supposedly over $10 million, if he's expecting a 50-50 type split with Jake Paul, if Jake Paul has equity. So in other words, Jake Paul is gaining value in the fight that's not just appearing in the purse split. So, and I've heard that's one of the problems Nate Diaz had, is the idea that I am not going to fight for PFL, making fun of it, partly because Jake Paul has equity in the company, and that's kind of offensive to him because that was not offered to him, and he doesn't want to do that. But so there's the issue is, who is he going to fight? And that seems to be the big hang up that in the past, but now the big hang up is the with Mike Tyson and everything, boxing presents a much more lucrative endeavor for him going forward. Although they did leave open what Mike Perry is a possibility. Yeah. And Conor McGregor.
That one surprised me because they kept really dropping Conor McGregor's name quite a bit. Yeah,
although he did sound like Bidarian did say he didn't think Conor had much to gain from fighting him. Mm-hmm. Right? Didn't he say that? And so yes. I think he was, I don't know if it was an attempt to backhand and insult him to get him worked up to fight Jake Paul, or basically saying the truth that there's little chance I will be meeting Conor McGregor, so I'm not going to hype that bout.
They talked about Darren Till a little bit while they were on this, and they mentioned that he was having visa issues. Why do you think he's having that specific problem?
I think it's very simple. His relationship to Daniel Kinahan, the mobster in the United Arab Emirates that's wanted by the U.S. government, that has a reward out for him. And other people that have been connected to Daniel Kinahan, most famously Tyson Fury, have had their visas denied and can't come to the U.S. to fight. And I think this is, it seems obvious to me this is why Darren Till, because Darren Till had pictures of him taking them, spoke warm and glowingly of Kinahan. And in hindsight, that probably was a giant mistake to go out of your way, especially when it was revealed that he's a gangster, to say what a great guy this is and I love hanging out with him. So lesson to a lot of fighters. If you're especially not a U.S. citizen, if you're trying to get a visa, do not get photos with wanted criminals and war criminals.
Now, do you think Nakisa is accurate when he said that women are, he was bold with this too, because he reiterated it twice. He said that the UFC pays women equally, that they treat women equally as men. To access the bonus content of this episode, you must be a paid subscriber. To do that, go to heynottheface.substack.com and subscribe today.
Not the face! Ooh, okay, the face!